Bosses have been a staple of video games for a very long time, blocking players' progress, causing them massive damage, and challenging their skills to determine whether they have truly mastered the mechanics of their preferred games. Some are more famous than others, whether they're unique, iconic, or a great fight. Not all are made equal though, and many through the years have given players a headache thanks to their punishing difficulty. There are a ridiculous number of memorable foes we could have chosen for this list, and everyone will have different experiences in any given game, with many struggling for hours with a boss others can beat in one go. With that in mind, we've gathered together just a handful of examples to take a look at today, which have been chosen because they give most players a seriously hard time. If you disagree with our picks, well, good for you for being better at games than most, I suppose. I'm Ben from TripleJump, and here are 10 video game bosses that are basically impossible to beat. Number 10. Countess, Darkest Dungeon. The stylish and brutal dungeon crawler Darkest Dungeon is not a game that goes easy on its players. It's set apart by its stress mechanic, which factors in the emotional toll it would take to explore the eldritch horror-infested world and applies different afflictions if it isn't managed properly. This leads to party members who refuse healing, injure themselves, or die from a heart attack if their stress continues to rise, and in a game with permadeath, it's easy to see how this can cause massive problems. Even more problematic though are the bosses, which are able to obliterate the player if they've shown up unprepared. One of the most infamous of all isn't even part of the base game, but was added with the Crimson Court DLC, which introduces a whole new area along with its own ailments and enemies. While the Fanatic can also cause issues, it's the Countess that often draws the most ire from players. This vampiric insectoid noble hits hard with 3 turns per round at the start of the fight. Of all of her phases though, it's the Bloodlust form that is the worst. Whilst in it, she gets 4 turns, increased resistances, and powerful attacks, potentially even able to stun 2 heroes at once. She can be stunned back, but that doesn't make her suck any less. Number 9. Sinistar, Sinistar. Arcade games are uniformly difficult, since one of the main motivations behind them is to take as much of your hard-earned cash as possible. There are a number of them that have caused players issues over the years, from Dragon's Lair to Street Fighter 2, but one of the most memorable villains is the eponymous big bad from 1983 title, Sinistar. As players shoot asteroids, they're able to collect white crystals, which allow them to obtain Cinebombs, the only thing that will allow them to defeat the boss. In the meantime, that very rival is constantly being built up on the enemy's ships, who are trying to nab materials. Once Sinistar has acquired 20 crystals, it will announce that it lives in the most menacing way possible before quite literally screaming its way onto screen, causing instant panic to set in as it pinwheels into sight. This fast foe can be killed with 13 Cinebombs, yum yum yum, but players will have to be at the perfect distance and keep their eye out, as enemy ships and asteroids can intercept the bombs, and Sinistar will destroy the tiny ship instantly if it gets too close. Add in the ever-increasing speed as players beat more and more levels, and it's no wonder this screamy space face is notorious to this day. Number 8. Grim Matchstick, Cuphead. Cuphead is a game that is full of hard bosses, and that was true even before the delicious Last Course DLC added several new ones for players to contend with. Any and all of them might have been at home on this list, as even the easier ones can still cause a great deal of pain. I nearly died playing it, it nearly killed me. Even with King Dice being a close contender for the worst of the worst though, we have to give it to Grim Matchstick instead. This massive dragon makes his home in the tower on Inkwell Isle 2 in a level known as Fiery Frolic, and is a big flying menace, to put it mildly. As the fight begins, it's obvious that it's a little bit different from most of the others, as even though the big green lad is flying, the player isn't, instead having to expertly jump to and from the moving randomly generated cloud platforms. This means that not only do players have to dodge the many projectiles being hurled at them over the course of the 3-stage battle, but will also have to take care not to incur full damage. The last stage is the worst, throwing in 2 more heads, fireballs that spit apart when shot, and a devastating flamethrower attack, and now it's raining as well. Just great. Number 7. Ulma, Ninja Gaiden. Before there was Dark Souls, there was Ninja Gaiden. This series started life in 1988 with both an arcade version and an NES game that made its way across the world in the following years. For this particular entry though, we're talking about the 2004 Xbox version of the game. Players once again take control of series mainstay Ryu Hayabusa and have to hack and slash their way through a huge number of tough-as-nails enemies. One of the hardest of all is Ulma, a demon with a whole range of magic powers that can ruin your day before you even know what hit you. And I do mean whole range, as she has attacks that will just as effectively damage you from across the room as they do up close. Whether it's throwing stone pillars around the place, summoning hordes of minions, or briefly freezing you in order to squeeze the life out of you, there's a variety of ways to get demolished in no time. If that wasn't bad enough, Alma is incredibly fast, leading to only short windows of opportunity that allow the player to damage her back, requiring great skill and accuracy to gain victory. Getting to this point is no joke, but this fight can cause a roadblock for even skilled players. Number 6. Millennia, Elden Ring. From Software are known for making frustrating but fair boss fights for the most part. However, every once in a while there's one enemy that feels completely unjust, and in Elden Ring that enemy is Millennia, Blade of Miquella. She's hard to get to in the first place, residing at the bottom of the confusing and generally horrible Halig tree, which itself is hidden behind a punishing puzzle in Ordina far to the north. This should give you an idea of just what sort of challenge you can expect once you reach the end, but it doesn't, because it's so much worse. Not only is she incredibly quick, her waterfowl dance is almost guaranteed to completely destroy your health if it connects, and every hit she lands on you heals for the same amount. Oh, and she has 2 phases, the second phase of which introduces Scarlet Rot. How fun! For context, our writer played Elden Ring for about 110 hours in total before finishing, and how many hours of that were dedicated to Millennia? Around 25, over a fifth of the playtime. Is this entry here out of spite? Yes, it absolutely is, but regardless, there's no denying she deserves to be here, as she is certainly the most infamous of the game's bosses. Number 5. Sigrun, God of War. The most taxing boss in 2018's excellent God of War is one that is entirely optional and a pain to even get to in the first place. One of the challenges Kratos is able to take on as he makes his way through the realms is fighting the 8 Valkyries that are scattered throughout. They're tough to take on individually with their own special sets of moves, but even the hardest of these pales in comparison to the Valkyrie Queen. Once players have defeated them and gathered their helms, they can place them at the Council of Valkyries to summon the 9th, Sigrun. She greets Kratos by slamming his head into the ground, and then it's all downhill from here. It's probably not surprising that the Valkyrie Queen would be the toughest of all, but she seems to have taken that as a challenge and beefed up even more. Not only does she have devastating attacks all of her own, but she can draw from the movesets of all of the other Valkyries with additional damage. She's also way more aggressive and incredibly hard to dodge, requiring the player to take their time and land hits and parries as strategically as they can until they can finally whittle her health down to 0. Much easier said than done though. Number 4. Mike Tyson, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! While many fighting games have that one tough or even unfair boss, one of the most dreaded of all time, even now, is Mike Tyson's pixelated counterpart. In Mike Tyson's Punch-Out with 2 exclamation marks, players step into the shoes of Little Mac, a boxer looking to climb the ranks of the World Video Boxing Association. Since this is an NES title, the game isn't always the easiest, and fighting through each of the 13 initial opponents can be a trial in itself. Once players have bested them all though, they'll face the eponymous boxer for one last match, which won't be very long if they don't know what to expect, as an uppercut can knock the player flat out before they even have time to process what's happening. The only way to get to the very end of the match is by having perfect timing, something which will take many attempts as Iron Mike's attacks are barely telegraphed. Even memorization isn't necessarily as much help as with other fights, as Tyson doesn't have any set patterns to his punches, especially in later rounds. He can be downed quickly if players attack while he's blinking, but like everything else, this requires exact timing and can go very easily wrong otherwise. Blink yourself and I guarantee he won't miss you. Number 3. Sans, Undertale. Undertale is a game that is very chill if you go about it the right way. It's well known for allowing you to play in a multitude of ways, with the pacifist run of the game where you make friends with everyone, even the supposed baddies, being the most satisfying way to enjoy the title, at least in our writer's opinion. If you go for the so-called genocide run, however, and choose to engage with the battle mechanics instead, you're going to have a bad time. This is something that Sans, the joke-loving skeleton, lets you know in no uncertain terms when you meet him at the end of the game after slaughtering your way through everyone else you've encountered. He rightly gives you a lecture for your actions before unleashing a wave of insanely powerful and difficult to avoid attacks. Once again, there's little players can do but memorize every one of these, because this seemingly innocuous skeleton packs a surprisingly meaty punch. He's able to fill up the fight arena with an insane number of hard to dodge bones and lasers, and can even break its bounds entirely with some projectiles, meaning players can be attacked even when they're frantically moving through different menus. Sans may be characterized as a lazy jokester with an incredible theme song, but we're certainly not laughing now. Number 2. Absolute Virtue, Final Fantasy XI. The Final Fantasy series is no stranger to difficult and elaborate boss fights, or ones that take a great deal of patience, skill, and leveling in order to defeat. It's absolute virtue from the MMO Final Fantasy XI that has to take the top spot, however, due to it being impossible to defeat through normal means for nearly 3 years. Added with the second expansion, Chains of Promathia, absolute virtue took nearly 7 months for players to even find in the first place. Once they did, things took a turn for the massively difficult. The first group to make any significant progress with the fight spent several hours getting its health bar down to half, only for absolute virtue to cast Benediction, heal itself for nearly 47,000 points, and perform an almost instant party wipe. They vowed to keep trying, but after 30 hours of playtime was still unsuccessful. As more people began to encounter the foe, various exploits were found, but these were always patched out shortly after, making the fight unwinnable once again. As time went on, absolute virtue's health was dropped from around 100,000 to 66,000, the fight was given a 2-hour time limit, and the level cap was increased from 75 to 99, but beating this enemy is still considered to be a massive accomplishment. Number 1. Queen Larsa, Mashihime Sama Futari. The bullet hell genre is one of the hardest there is. It's right there in the name, after all. These sensory overload-inducing shoot-em-ups require a huge level of concentration, skill, and pixel-perfect precision that only the most skilled and patient players can ever hope to possess. One of the most notorious bosses of all of these games is Queen Larsa from the second game in the, please don't make me say it again, Mushuhime Sama series. There, I did it. This queen definitely deserves her title, and considering what she can do, there's no way I'd be arguing about it regardless. There is quite literally no room for error, especially on the higher difficulties, requiring absolute and complete understanding of not only attack patterns, but the hitbox of the player ship, as well as relying on an almost supernatural ability to even pass what is happening on screen at any given time. With a basically constant onslaught of projectiles filling most, if not all, of the screen for the entire duration of the fight, the slightest break in concentration will lead to the player's death. If you're one of those people who live for challenge, this boss will absolutely give you that. I'll be over here trying to get my eyes to refocus in the meantime though. Good luck!